We built a Neutrality Watch. It consists of two parts. The first one is dashboard with 5 key metrics and an API, which provide access to the data which we collected in real time and which we use for our metric calculations. So the metrics. We developed 2 groups of metrics. The first one is censorship latency metrics. These metrics helps us to assess the additional time needed for a transaction, a non-compliant transaction, to be included into a block. And also these metrics provide an insight from the point of view of Ethereum user who try to make a transaction which touch the prohibited addresses. And the second group is compliance ratios and the censorship resistant indexes. These metrics helps us to analyze the influence of each of Lido validators / node operator individually and collectively. So it also helps us to compare Lido and non-Lido. And also these metrics show us the overall network censorship status. The first metric is called average censorship latency, and it shows us the additional time needed for a non-compliant transaction to get into the block. You can see a blue line on the right on the graph, and it shows that during the last 6 weeks, it was like 10 to 18 seconds, so up to 3 blocks on average. And the red line shows us where would we be in case if Lido will be completely non-censoring. So if every Lido validator will pass all the non-compliant transaction in the first block, it can. How we choose, how assess the censorship? We built a transaction classifier. It's a gradient boosting classifier which predicts whether an individual transaction should be included into the next block under normal circumstances. So it compares different transactions and make a prediction based on many features. The most important features were current waiting time of the transaction, available priority fee. This feature is based on the max priority fee, max gas fee, and the current base fee. A number of total eligible transactions in the mempool before this block. A transaction priority within this mempool. It's based on the total gas used by the transaction and available priority fee. This matrix is a cousin of our first metric, but it shows the delay only for transactions that were censored even once in one block. As you can see here, these lines are higher. So it's like from 2 blocks to 4 blocks of censorship. And the red line is show where would we be if the Lido was completely non-censoring, like in the first metric. The next metric is from the second group, and it shows us the data for each Lido validator. The blue line blinds shows us the percentage of the non-compliant compliant transactions which were included by this validator. And the green line shows us the percentage of non-compliant transactions included by this validator. So if we see that the blue line is higher than green line, it means that validator overall influence the censorship it imposed censorship more than average. The next one is censorship resistant index. It's just a ratio between the share of non-compliant transactions included by validator to the share of a compliant transaction. So if this ratio is higher than 1, it means that the validator doesn't impose much censorship. And if it's less than 1, it shows us that a validator imposes more censorship than average validator. And the last matrix is show us the total influence of Lido and non-Lido on the Ethereum blockchain in sense of censorship. And we compare this for the period of the last 7 days and last 30 days. What we had to include in future. We would like to include information on non-Lido validators. We would like to consider using multiple nodes to assess a mempool more precisely. We would like to consider the possibility to add some information on the MEF builders and MEF relays if we found a way to make it interesting, and some website and service efficiency improvements. Here is our dashboard. We have all our metrics on the left side and this brief description of methodology on the right side. And we show also some examples of calculation for each metrics. Also, we found out that not all of non-compliant transactions were censored, and more than half of them were quickly included into the next blocks. That's why we developed the second metric, this one, for only censored transactions, as I told you before. You can switch from 7 to 30 days look and get a grasp of what was changing during this period.